Never did I have such mixed feelings about seeing one of my videos do well. I watched it climb, and climb, and climb. And it's currently at 1.2k views, which I have to say thank you very much for. Thank you for supporting the video. Thank you for the subscriptions that I got. Really appreciate it. Just trying to get the channel to do well and entertain people while pointing out awful writing. And now I have to do it all over again for episode 2. Because I said if that video did well, I would do episode 2. So without further ado, here we go. The deal is, this is a picture of the Enterprise. This is a picture of the Enterprise with full shields. Every single time that something dumb or non-sequitur or un-Star Trek-like happens in Starfleet Academy, the Enterprise will lose a point of shields. Will she survive? Last time, all the shields went and she took hull damage. We'll see how she fares on episode 2, the beta test. The episode starts off with full semester. Now, this is technically true, full semester, but we're 1,000 years into the future. You need to try and convince us that we're 1,000 years into the future. Nothing about this series has so far. You'd think by that point we'd have some new system, not just relying on 20th century American academia structure, which is what this is doing. We start off with Chancellor Ake, and she's saying things like, make your bed, get to class on time, and stitch by stitch, we weave something greater than you've ever imagined. The tapestry that is Starfleet. Wow, this almost sounds like Star Trek. We cut immediately to the Doctor doing a lesson. It's like a cut-in. And we've got a nerdy guy there wearing glasses. The Doctor's talking about goo. The nerdy guy says something nerdy. And Caleb goes, please never stand next to me again. Fine. Doctor says you've got to look after the goo for 5 days. Be careful with it, otherwise it will consume you, and you have to spend holidays with its parents. Sam finds this completely hilarious. Cut back to Ake. When the burn hit, Starfleet had to leave Earth. We pan across all of the students, and there's one in a wheelchair. Not a hover chair, not kind of device or anything like that. A wheelchair with little wheels at the front and big wheels at the back. Again, we're 1,000 years in the future, and every single opportunity they have, they don't show it. Nothing has changed. It's just current day. They're just constantly throwing current day at you. And I've had an epiphany. The difference between proper Star Trek and this new Star Trek. Proper Star Trek wanted to show you the future. It wanted to show you a time when all of the petty concerns of today were gone. We'd moved past it. We'd moved on. New Trek is determined to reframe the problems of today and put them directly into the future. To almost bring the future here and rephrase current positions and current philosophies and societal concerns that we have in the future, which makes no sense. Original Star Trek did it cleverly through alien allegory. New Trek just doesn't have the brains. So we've got this guy in a wheelchair. There's stairs everywhere. And he's got wheels. It'd be one thing if he was in a hover chair. He's got wheels. Just, yeah, alright, whatever. I just can't. So we cut to another class, and it's a Vulcan giving a xenobiology class of some description. And you've got Dereb there, and Dereb's like, oh, is there anything in the mythological archives about a space rat who puts his ship in danger? Which is petty enough. You know, the rivalry between the two of them. And then Caleb says, oh, is there anything about a jumped up something rather with a tiny fish dick? Seriously, 1,000 years in the future and we're still making dick jokes? Come on, Star Trek. Come on. I know you're in there somewhere. Come on. Try harder. Yeah, I'm afraid the Enterprise isn't doing too well already. Like a minute into it. And then Caleb spins around and flips the bird. They're... Yay. So we see our first sort of view of the War College. They wear black. They're the ones, Ake says, because we've cut back to Ake, that protected Starfleet during the burn. This could be an interesting idea. This really could. Between the old philosophy of having to defend yourself at a time when you're vulnerable and this new time of stretching forward, I guarantee it's only going to be paid lip service. The War College are notably less diverse than the Academy. And their leader is a white man. So then we get Laura Fock. Again, we've cut to another class. Laura Fock shouting, duty, honour, service. And Junior Shish, she's just the worst. Been picked because she's another lesbian feminist comedian. It's as simple as that. She's terrible.
Duty, honour, service. Louder! Duty! This class is about me.
And she's going, oh, this class is about me. Father taught me victory is life. Mother, that today is a good day to die. Should have been taught some acting lessons. And she just breaks this puny little white girl in front of her. And she goes, I can always spot the runner. Very compassionate, very enlightened, very Star Trek. I'd like to direct you back to the lesson that Worf taught Seiko Jaxa about unfairness, where he bullies her until she won't take it anymore. And she stands up and he goes, well done. That was a lesson. If you're being treated unfairly, that is brave for you to stand up and say something. Do you think you get anything from this bitch? Do you think you get anything from Laura Fox like that? She's just there for jokes and laughs and to humiliate people. Already Caleb, by making him do press-ups in the last episode with an additional load in his back. And now by breaking this young little white cadet and making her run off crying. Yeah, nice one. Enlightened. Yeah, this is the future. Fuck you, Starfleet Academy. And then Ake literally says, welcome to Starfleet Academy. That's literally the very next thing. Yay, lots of clapping, music, blah, 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 blah. And everybody's clapping apart from Caleb, because Caleb's just too cool. He's too cool and doesn't like the Federation. Yeah. He's a rebel. Yeah. Right, so we cut to another scene, and we see the alien from Prodigy. I can't remember what the species are called. But it's almost like directly taken from Prodigy. I'll put it up here, you can see it. It doesn't look like it fits. It looks like a cartoon. It looks like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where you've got the Toons next to Bob Hoskins and stuff like that. What? No. Why? And then we go to Sam, and she's talking about if Caleb gets caught by the people that, you know, he's running from, they'll cut off his hand into little stumpy stumps. 1,000 years in the future. 17-year-old. Why? Oh. So they're walking along, and they're like, oh, we've got our room assignments. And Caleb's, oh, we have to share a room. That's the definition of fascism. I'm not kidding. That's a line. That's the definition of fascism. Oh, make it stop. And then he's like, oh, you know, if we were somebody else, how do we, and Jess is like, what, hook up? He's like, oh, you know what I'm talking about. And just before they split up, he's like, there's a whole thing where he's like, oh, she thinks they're rooming together for a second. And she's like, no, I'm across the hall. Right, okay, so who do you think he's rooming with? You got it. It's Dereb. And he opens up the room, Dereb's and he's like, oh, hell no. So we get this turbo lift scene. Okay, Doctor and Fock all walk into the turbo lift, and there's this whole thing about where the Doctor keeps sitting next to Ake, and she keeps moving away from him. He's a hologram. I mean, it's not like he's going to smell or anything. It's just, and there's a exocomp there, and it's just, And as they got off their turbo lift, like, she's naming the robots as they go past. She's like, oh, Stanley, Jessica, Carl, or whatever it is, I don't know. Then they're talking about the Betazoids, and they're like, look, the Betazoid delegation's coming here. They're an integral part of the Federation. We need them to rejoin to make the Federation strong again. And they open the door to Aki's office. The Doctor's buggered off somewhere, and the kids are squabbling. And she's like, look, they're like, oh, we can't live together, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, right, Derek, get out. Caleb stays. And she's like, you've hacked the exits like 3 times in the last 12 hours. And he's like, yeah, well, you're not helping me find her mum. He's like, look, the clue I got from Baraka was that she's at Gosia 5. I've looked in the database. It doesn't exist. He's just being this insolent little wanker. And we all know how it's going to happen over time. He's going to learn discipline, but he's going to learn it on his own because he's diamond in the rough, and he's going to become the most important person. And we can see it all from a mile off. Absolute mile off. she's saying, oh, the Betazoids are bringing their youth delegation, because the youth delegation is the one that pushed for the activism. And she's like, oh, activism, I love it. I love it. And then we cut to a scene, and Ake is wandering around barefoot because she's kooky. And she meets the war college leader, and he brings it up on it. It's like, that's not relegation. She's like, I don't care. I'm 422 years old. I can do what I like. And they're just, and then she's like, oh, I want to bring the cadets to the meeting. I'm like, why is the meeting being held at Starfleet Academy? Why is the meeting not being held, with the president of the fucking Federation we've seen, or the president of Earth, Stacey Ham Planet Abrams? What the hell? I guess they couldn't afford her fee. And she's like, bringing the cadets is a chance to teach them that youth advocating for social change matters. And I'm just like, Aah! So we get exposition, loads of exposition, and she's just like drinking a random cup off the table and drinking it. And the guy from the War College makes a face. And there's a wall around Beta Z space, we find out. They've put this wall up like a psionic barrier so that nobody can see in. And they're enclosed. So they're isolationists, basically. And she says that other systems have joined this great big swathe of cut-off space and sided with the Betazoids and decided to cut themselves off from everything. But now the children are saying, let's rejoin the Federation. And yeah, the boss of, basically the leader of Beta Z is an isolationist, and he campaigned on keeping the wall up. A leader who campaigned on keeping the wall up? What could that possibly refer to? I can't work it out. It's too subtle. And the war dude's like, I don't want kids here. It's stupid. This meeting's too important. Yes, you're absolutely fucking right. It is. But no, Ake says the children are our ambassadors to now. But she says it more like, our ambassadors to now. Vance is the mediator, and he basically says that if Beta Z values young voices, then the Federation must too. And because she's won, as she walks past, Ake hits the white male war college leader dude as she walks off. Right, so we cut to another lesson, and it's, oh yay, it's Tig Notaro, yay! Sam's being annoying and stupidly over-enthusiastic and everything, and the little terrified cadet, she's got a name, because I thought she was terrified cadet in the IMDb, but that's actually the one that Fock makes run off. This one's actually got a name. So she's like to Sam, she's like, oh, hey, you're absorbing all the energy in the room. You're like a sponge. Can you chill? In her pathetic little mongoloid way. And I'm just like, what? Please try and do something grown-up show, please. And Caleb is just constantly on his pad in a lesson, constantly searching for Goja 5. And it comes up saying, Goja 5 is not a recognised location. Goja 5 is not a recognised location. Goja 5 is not a recognised location. Do you know the definition of insanity? And then Tig Notaro fucking picks him up on it. And he's like, the machine's broken. It's not showing the display properly. And Caleb's like, look, I could fix this. I know everything there is to do about temporal mechanics. You can't teach me anything. And she's like, oh, you're some real shit. I'm like, no, this isn't Star Trek. Where is the Star Trek? Please, I'm trying to find it. Where is it? Where's the Star Trek? And she gets him to stand up, and she's like, oh, tell us who you are. And he's like, I'm Caleb Meir. And she's like, no, who you are? Have you ever seen a ghost? Have you ever made a mixtape? 1,000 years in the future. 1,000 years in the future. Writers used to be able to write as if it was the future. As if we'd moved past things. Taking elements along. Yeah, elements. Deanna Troi likes chocolate cake and stuff like that. But the people weren't speaking like it was the 80s. They weren't going around saying radical and cool and bodacious. They weren't quoting Bill and Ted. They were interested in classical music and classical things like that. Because of what he said about humanity and the importance of maybe keeping your culture with you and things like that. This understands none of that. And then she's like, oh, what's the name of this cadet? Speaking to the one that we thought was terrified girl. And it turns out her name's Cadet Pickford, but he doesn't know that. I found it out from IMDb. And she goes, look, old age and treachery always triumph over youth and a smart mouth. Oh, Oscar Wilde, love that guy. They had to put glass over his tombstone because people kept trying to make out with him. I'm like, what? I was also like, I'm pretty sure that's not fucking Oscar Wilde. I looked it up. It's wrong. It's not Oscar Wilde. What the fuck? Seriously? So Caleb's all pissed off because he's been showing up. The class ends and he bumps into Sam. And the goo, it all goes flying all over him. No screw tops. He hardly hits her. Top just comes off, goes flying. No securing, And this AI turns up, this very sort of Asian, sort of noticing that all the holographic servants are all Asian. I don't know what that says about Star Trek Academy. And sprays him with some foam. Oh, so funny. And he storms off, and this hologram tries to stop him. Another Asian lady hologram. And he uses the whole kind of like calculate pi to, call back to Spock to break it and, give me the coffee orders of everybody who's ever done anything. And it breaks the hologram. And I'm like, what? No. It's going to have some safeguards. Can we not do better? Can we not do better? For the time back then in the 60s, I was like, yeah, fair enough. Calculating pi keeps the computer busy for a little while, but can we not? We're 800 to 900 years past that point in the timeline. Can we not look towards the future a little bit? But no, he breaks the hologram and he goes and climbs this wall, and there's this random girl sitting on a bench. He gets like a warning saying like negotiation start, or there's like an announcement, negotiation start in 8 minutes. And she's talking about the hologram, and she's like, oh, did you break it? And he goes, no, I just bunged up its processing or something like that. It? You've got a whole new hologram fucking species. It's a bit problematic. You'll be calling it a hologram. It, isn't it? Do you call Sam it? Bigots. So anyway, she kind of reads his mind, says, oh, you're conflicted. He's like, I'm not conflicted. She's like, you're literally sitting on the fence. And I was like, yeah. I'll give you that one. She wanders off and he tries to sort of follow her, and he gets stopped by security and he tries to run away and they tackle him to the ground. And it's all very funny. So it's time to look at the Betazoids, and of course the girl is one of the Betazoids, and she runs up to the congregation and signs something to her father in like ASL, because obviously Betazoids use American Sign Language, because of course they do. Oh God, no! We can see where this is going. So they all take their places at the meeting, and you got this woman signing for everybody. Please sit down, signing. Why? Why are you signing? The cadets aren't deaf. I mean, why are people deaf in a fucking 1,000 years in the future? But the cadets aren't. Why are you signing? It's pure virtue signaling. You're not. Why are you signaling in American Sign Language to the Betazoids? If the Betazoids have been cut off, why do they know American Sign Language? This is just all a massive virtue signaling. Oh, so brave, so stunning. Such representation for the disabled. I would feel pandered to if I was deaf. Oh my God. So yeah, Vance is apologising. He's not signing. And then this little gizmo floats down to the Betazoid leader's collar, and he's signing in ASL, and then the gizmo's converting his words. Betazoids are telepaths! I'll just say it again. Betazoids are telepaths! Why does he have to sign to get this thing to... What? Oh my God! It's the most pathetic virtual signalling, and it goes on and on as they continue this discussion. So basically, Vance wants them to lower the wall and join the Federation. The Betazoid dude says, right, we want 12 starships of protection, 6 seats on the Security Council, and the ability to veto any new members. Okay? And Vance goes, well, that's a bit crazy. And while this is going on, the security come in and just throw Caleb with all the dirt and everything on him in a seat next to the doctor.
What, are you retarded?
You're not worried about how that might look to our Betazoid leader? You don't want to take him to get it freshened up first? No? You're just going to chuck him down there with white shit all over his front. And the Betazoid girl thinks, this is hilarious. And she's already like she's wet. She fucking loves this guy. Her and Caleb are basically just, they might as well have already found a room or something, do you know what I mean? And while this is going on, Caleb is playing with his zip. I'm not even kidding. I'm wearing a zip hoodie at the moment. He's doing this. And the doctor's trying to stop him, and he's stopping the doctor from stopping him, and then the zip gets stuck. And she still thinks this is hilarious. And they're still debating the serious stuff at the podium, and they're like, look, Beta Z has lost so many people to the Venari Roth, we had no choice but to put up this barrier. And Vance is like, look, I'm going to have to go ask the Federation. Why isn't this meeting taking place with the Federation? Why are you speaking to an admiral in a fucking school? This is like if a delegation from another country comes over and we're like, yeah, we're going to hold this at Harvard. It's just like, what the fuck? Anyway, so Vance says, yeah, we need a recess. They take a recess and...
Could we take a break for a while? It appears my intelligence circuits have melted.
The Beta Z kids want a tour. So, like, look, they said to assign to their father. Telepaths. Do you know what telepathy means? So they assign to their father and they're like, look, we can find out more about the school if we go and hang out with one of the kids. So they go over and do that, and obviously she picks Caleb. And he's being a twat. He's like leaning over the fountain or something like that. And she's like, oh, God. So we get a scene between Ake and Caleb, and he's like, I want time off the menial at Labour if I'm going to do this. He's actually negotiating with her, and he goes to eat an apple, and it's not an apple, it's a fire fruit, and the robot outside the window laughs at him, and I'm just like, ugh. And then they make a comment about gazpacho soup, and he's pissed off it was cold, and she's like, it's meant to be served that way, and I'm like, are they intelligent enough to have made a Red Dwarf reference here? Do I give them a point back? I don't know. And then he just goes, oh, look, I'll do it. If I can you give me stellar photography for an hour and I'll do it. And then he dismisses himself and walks off. I could just imagine this prick in front of Janeway or Picard. But obviously Ake's just like, oh, he's fine. He's just a troubled boy. He's so amazing. I see such potential in him. So he's wandering around with the Betazoid girl. She had a name. I don't actually know if it's been really mentioned yet. Tamira Sadal, Zoe Steiner, and yeah, she's not bad. Anyway, so they're wandering around with her, and there's people playing like laser frisbee and laser keep it uppy. In the background, and they're talking about what they want out of things. And she's like, oh, she wants to see humpback whales. She wants to see beauty. She's tired of being on Beta Z cut off, and she wants to explore. She's got those wild tendencies and stuff. And he tells her he's looking for a planet. He's looking for Goja 5. They go to the stellar cartography, and again he scans for Goja 5. Like, dude, seriously, and it's not on the database. And then, she's like, I've got vague ideas about what you're feeling. And, Betazoids are meant to be full telepaths. The reason Deanna only got feelings from people is because she was only half Betazoid. Lwaxana Troi could read Picard's mind and took the piss out of him mercilessly. In fact, she had to be stopped from reading people's minds because obviously humans find it intrusive. To Betazoids, it's a completely natural thing. Because they're aliens. Because old Star Trek understood that aliens and people are different. This show does not. So she uses her data to access the Federation databanks with a little bracelet, and boom, there's Goja 5, and the emotion swells, and blah, 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 blah. Oh, there's a whole universe behind your wall you've never seen. And I'm like, so we go back to the negotiations, and the Admiral's got a halfway offer. And it's not enough. The Beta says, like, look, the Varani Ryle attacked us. We can't accept this. So they're at an impasse. So Caleb takes Tamira to go see some whales. It's got a little sort of downstairs bit. It's like an aquarium, I suppose, with the worst CGI whales I've ever seen in my entire life. And the camera pans over the bay of San Francisco and Starfleet Academy, and Alcatraz is still there. 1,000 years on, Alcatraz is still there. Because Starfleet definitely wants, memories of prisons and things like that. Alcatraz is still there. The whole thing, not just the island, the whole building, the whole prison, as it looks today, because they're too lazy to do anything else. They've just CGI'd bits of this futuristic stuff in the background. Everything about San Francisco is just still there. 1,000 years in the future. Anyway, so you've got these awful CGI whales, and she's like, oh, she's pregnant, channeling Spock. Fuck off. And also, now you're telepathic? Now you can get actual thoughts from things? Whales, but not humans? Anyway, they're bonding, and they're just about to kiss, and the grown-ups come in, and they're all really pissed off, and they're really surprised at what's going on. It's like, really? She said him, only him, and you're surprised that they're about to get it on? Ake's pissed off because he's made her look bad, and he's all really excited. He's like, I found Gojira 5. She's like, I couldn't give a fuck. Get out of my sight. Pissed off with you. So now we go to like a big party type thing, and the Doctor's doing opera with a female alien singer, and like, all throughout this party. And the guy from Beta Z, the leader, I don't know if he even ever got a name. Real quick look. Sadal. President Emmerin Sadal, played by Anthony Natali. He's like, look, I see promise in what you're doing here at the Academy, but no more. There's nothing solid. This is just early days, And Vance is like, look, we're still building. We're going to put our HQ in Paris. Earlier, they were talking about whether they're going to put it in Paris, San Francisco. I think Beijing came up. Like, look, we're going to put it in Paris. And the Betazoid goes like, look, progress is impossible without change. We cut to Sam. Sam is sad because people think she's a lot. Yes, you are. You're meant to be this hologram, but no. More like Instagram than hologram. We keep cutting back to the like they did earlier, where Ake was talking, and then they kept cutting to another class and back to Ake. They're doing the same here, but between the adults talking and the kids talking. So we go back to the conversation between the adults, and he's like, "Look, there's some more philosophical, almost Star Trek talk about the need for change and the dangers of entropy and all that kind of stuff." Caleb and Beta have been sneaking each other looks, and she's like flashed her tongue at him and all sorts of stuff for ages, and he puts a gun to his head, oh! And they just basically disappear. They just disappear while the adults are talking. And when she walks out, and we can see they've not even bothered to dress. Like the building, they've literally put a Starfleet Academy on a 20th century building. They've left like the exit sign inside the building, not bothered to remove that for any reason. And you can see in the reflection in the windows, this building on the opposite side with brick and like wooden Dutch big shutters when they used to haul coal and stuff off the ships. Because presumably it was filmed near San Francisco, which is a port. And I'm just like, seriously. You're trying to convince us this is 1,000 years in the future. Not a couple of hundred years in the future, not a couple of hundred years after Deep Space Nine. 1,000 years in the future. And you are failing at every single step of the way. Nothing about this is next millennium. Nothing. This is the 32nd century is where this is set. And nothing. You failed. You failed completely. Anyway, so they're still really close and everything, and he's like, he asks her about the thing on her neck. She's got this little glowing jewel thing on her neck, and she says it's a neural inhibitor. She feels things more than other betazoids, and if she loses control, she can hurt people. So it represses that, and that's her secret. And they're doing secrets, and he's like, look, I need to find Gojira 5 because that's the last place my mum was. And she gets upset. She's like, that's the reason you want Beta to lower the wall? And again, I'm like, you couldn't tell. Telepath. I know you're neuroinhibitor, but you worked out that Ray was pregnant. Spock mind melded with, he had her. Our thoughts become one. Mind meld. Remember that Star Trek? Remember? She should be able to tell that he's lying. And it's like, oh fuck's sake. And she goes, oh, you were just using me. And he gets pissed off and he storms off. And I'm like, right, okay. And we now go back to the debate. And the camera is spinning round, rather than just going from person to person, it's spinning round this little circle of people. And they're talking, and Emmerine's like, oh, why have you got criminals why have you started taking criminals in the academy? This doesn't make sense. It should be elite. It should be the best of the best. And Akai's like, oh, he's amazing, And then she accuses the Betazoids of basically being unable to see past their past. And he gets offended and says negotiations are over. And I'm like, oh, man, we almost had something there. We almost had something Star Trek. I can imagine this scenario taking place in real Star Trek, in like a briefing room or something like that, and the back and forth, and the Starfleet officers trying to make their case for why the Federation's a force for good, and maybe the aliens like, no, we don't get it, and Picard's there, and Picard just gives some great philosophical speech to convince them, but no, we're not going to get it. And it's so frustrating because I can see something of Star Trek, but it's buried under all of this bullshit. And it's really annoying. And anyway, we then, because the delegations is all over, like we're leaving in the morning, we go to Arcane and Caleb, and she's saying stuff about, I really needed that little boy to be okay, we're building something here. And she's like, yeah, I've got to learn, I need to let you go and stuff like that. And she goes to leave, and as she's at the door, Caleb just says, well, there's always something you can build. And she's like, oh my God, you're a genius. You just said that you were building something. How is it any different to what he just said? But no, Caleb's a genius because he's Space Jesus, part 2. I guarantee this is going to be the way it goes in every single episode. He's going to be the best thing ever. A diamond in the rough. A misunderstood, tragic, fractured soul. And then we cut, and Caleb's running down the stairs to catch up with the delegation. You've got instant transporters. We've seen them in this episode. And why are you running? Why isn't Ake just teleport in front of the Bajorans and say this? Nope. We have to have Caleb run all the way after the delegation. He's like, I need to speak to Tamira for a second. She's like, yeah, okay. And he's like, look, you've got like a couple of minutes. That's it. And then, I mean, it's a good thing it wasn't one of the fatties that needed to get to them, isn't it? Really? Because they'd gone. It's a good thing that Caleb is a fit, physically active man. Anyway, he's talking to Tamira and he apologises and he says, look, the Federation is the villain in both of our stories. Oh, fuck off. Fuck right off. I am so sick of this shit. I am so sick of the Federation being the bad guys because they're principled and, meritorious and disciplined and all that kind of stuff. This was never a thing. The Federation was always exclusive. You had to be good enough. You had to be good enough to join the Federation because the Federation was humanity at its finest. And if you didn't make the grade, Riker told you, and you didn't make it in. If your society still had problems and you weren't able to live up to the Federation's ideals, you didn't make it in, and that wasn't a bad thing. It's like, we will come back and check on you in a couple of 100 years and see if you've evolved. Because you need to meet the standards. You need to do better, Senator. You need to do better. And I'm just like, what? No. So now we've got Federation of the bad guys. They should be feeling guilty because they punished a woman for being involved in the killing of a man, second-degree murder. But no, it's the Federation's fault. She should have got off scot-free, obviously. So yeah, we get to that and he opens up to her and he just tells her everything. He's like, you want a bigger world, blah, 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 blah. And he's unloading his feelings and the emotional music starts playing in the background. And he's talking and unloading his feelings and at least nobody's crying yet. Burnham would be in floods of tears. Literally be on the floor. Whispering, oh God. And he's like, look, can you just have one more go at getting your dad back to the negotiating table and we can do this? And he's like, if you won't do it for me, for the love of God, do it for Turner, because he was guiding around the Turner wing earlier. For the love of God, we're 1,000 years in the future, 1,000 years in the future, 1,000 years in the future. For the love of God, for the love of God. I'm trying to think, has that really been, Star Trek 5, had God in it? But for the love of God, I'm trying. Maybe it has, but I don't think it has. I don't think that's been called upon as a thing. Obviously, the Bajorans many times would have called up the prophets and stuff like that. But I don't remember there being a religious aspect to it in the crew. It was fairly secular because obviously, they had discussions about things like afterlife and things like that. But I don't remember anybody ever saying for the love of God. They might have. I don't know. They might have. I don't recall. Anyway, and the delegation's just standing there because apparently they're waiting for her say so. Yeah, okay, whatever. Ake, still nowhere to be seen. So they all go back to their podiums and Ake's talking and she's like, look, we're going to build the HQ on Beta Z. Vance takes over and he's like, you know, this is a pledge by us. We will be there for you, Beta Z. We're going to be right with you. We're going to build on your planet. So this is our representation of our faith in this thing, which again could all work fine, but no. The emotional music starts again, and he's standing there and he's thinking about it, and the emotional music swells, and then people randomly start standing up. Caleb stands up, everybody else stands up. They're all standing up. And the music comes to a crescendo, and the music goes, and everybody's clapping. I'm so happy, because it's just the only way that they need to do modern TV, and the music's there to emotionally. The music is there to let people know how they're meant to feel, and Star Trek never used to do this. Never, quite often, the action scenes would have a bit of music behind it, but quite often they'd leave the quiet emotional scenes almost silent. Quite often, think of the scene between Picard and his brother in Family. Think of that. Yeah, think of that scene in New Trek. Swelling emotional music. Not the quiet, dignified moment that was required. That's one of the few times that we saw Picard cry. In fact, one of the first times we saw him cry back in Next Generation. And that meant it meant something. Unfortunately, when Burnham cries every other episode, it don't fucking mean anything. It's always the same. We've got emotional music, and she whispered. Tears running down her face. And yeah, this is just Discovery Mark 2. So yeah, that all happens, and then we cut to Ake and Caleb, and they're talking about Gauge 5, and she's like, look, we sent a Federation investigation team to go to Gauge 5. It's a horrible place, a place like somebody might go if they were trying to disappear, and they found a trail of his mum. They found like a manifest and stuff like that, and they give him all the details. And he says, and I can't work out, I don't know if I'm going deaf, I've listened to a lot of heavy metal over the years, been to a lot of concerts, but I swear he says, is this a goat Band-Aid? I'll play it for you.
Guilt Band-Aid.
Doesn't matter.
So yeah, and then she dismisses him, and then, because we just need one more little cliche, just one more little modern day cliche, as he's in the turbo elevator, she grabs him the fire fruit, she goes, hey kid, and throws it to him. And he bites into it, and the music plays, and I'm just like, ugh. And then he goes to his room and opens it up, and the male Betazoid character is in there. What's his name? God's sake, I might as well learn him. Occam Sadal, played by Romo Carreri. And every other word's dude or bro. It's just like this, oh, please, no. And he's got Tamura's bracelet, and Caleb's like, where's Tamura? And she chose the War College. Okay? Okay, that makes sense. And the base was like, oh, dude, yeah, we'll get there, bro. And I was like, and then he breaks one of Darab's trophies. And then Darab comes over. Caleb's trying to make his bed. And it's meant to be like sort of round circle journey. And I kind of get it. And Caleb helps Caleb make his bed, because Caleb's never had a bed, and to me makes that quite clear. It's like Ake comes in like, you said I made your bed. He's like, I've never had one. This could have worked. We could have had good stuff here. And Caleb helps him, and then Occam bounces over and goes, oh look, bro's making bros beds, and I'm like, and then that's the end. Mercifully, it's all over. Oh god, it's so painful. This one, I mean, zero action, more philosophy, which it's fine for Star Trek. But all buried under this neurotic, modern-day school drama. This isn't Star Trek. This is just a school drama wearing the skin of Star Trek. There's nothing, absolutely nothing to suggest this is 1,000 years in the future. And I mean nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not the technology, not the attitudes, not the people, not the behaviour, not the society. Absolutely nothing. It doesn't even feel further ahead than Deep Space Nine or anything like that. It genuinely doesn't. There is nothing here. The Betazoids may as well be human. They may as well be Chinese. In fact, if they were Chinese, they'd be more different than they are as Betazoids. They really would. There's nothing alien about them at all. There's lip service played. Like Caleb and Tamira are talking to each other and it's like, oh, you know, tell me something about, you know, something wild about Beta Z. She's like, oh, we have naked weddings. There's nothing. There was something very, very different about even Deanna Troi, and you know, Marina Sirtis did her best, and Troi was not a great character. But even in the very first episode, she acts quite alien, quite detached. Her speech is quite, you know, quite dehumanized. And she looks quite different. She became more humanish as time went on, unfortunately. But yeah, Beta's always meant to be telepaths. You know, look at Alexandra Troi, and this does nothing. It does nothing. It is the opposite of Star Trek because it takes everything wondrous and different and alien and humanizes it, puts it through a human lens. Whereas Star Trek was always about taking the human experience and analysing it through a different perspective, a different lens. This is the opposite, and that is the difference between old Star Trek and new Star Trek. And it is, strangely enough, a symptom of the left or the wokeism that's taken over Star Trek. Because people say Star Trek's always been woke. No. Star Trek has not always been woke. Star Trek has always been progressive, because progressivism allows you to see something through a different perspective and a different lens in the future. She's like, okay, this is what this would be like, idealised in the future. This is what we could strive towards. Wokeism is all about bringing your standards and retroactively judging something. That's the difference between it. That's why they woke people look back at Star Trek and go, that is problematic. You know, whereas it was actually very progressive for its time. But they'll also turn and go, oh, Star Trek's always been woke. No. Because Star Trek never impelled upon you. Star Trek never, well, I've said it so many times, Star Trek used to make you think. New Star Trek tells you what to think. It tells you who is right, who is wrong, what is good, what is evil, what position you should adopt during any given moment, because it's written by people who subscribe to that blinkered thought process. It has none of the capacity of old Star Trek. Look at the wheelchair. Just a guy in a wheelchair. We'll just put him there 1,000 years in the future. Boom, look at us. So stunning and so brave. Yeah. Deep Space Nine found a clever way to get around that. An alien whose gravity on their planet was completely different, and they floated around in the air. And on Deep Space Nine, she couldn't get around without a chair, and she hated it. And you had this whole thing where Bashir had a way to cure it, because that was back then. And then it was about, do I want the cure? Do I want it to make me different? Do I want this to change me? It was about that. Here, just a guy in a wheelchair. Guy in a wheelchair, virtue signal done. American Sign Language. Betas will speak American Sign Language. Job done. I just can't. I can't. I just... Wow. Anyway, I think we have given episode 2 quite long off. Episode 3 is out tomorrow. I'm at a film premiere, actually, with Lance Nielsen, who directed it. It's going to be quite a day, so I won't get to check out Starfleet Academy when it first comes out. But again, the deal is, this video does well. People keep watching it. People keep enjoying it. People keep thinking that it lends an insight and perspective that they enjoy and value, and I'll keep making them. That's the deal, guys. In the meantime, I have been Critic, and I'll be back with another video soon.